The galaxy was burning again. The endless swarm from the outer void devoured worlds like hungry shadows, leaving only silence behind. The Galactic Coalition, once proud and united, now stood at the edge of extinction. Every fleet, every army, every weapon they had thrown into the void was gone, erased without a trace. Admiral Kareth of the Valorian Empire stood before the great holographic map, his scaled hands trembling. Red warning lights flickered across the command hall, showing one planet after another falling to the swarm. His voice broke the heavy silence. We need soldiers, stronger than anything we've ever known. But everyone knew there was no one left to call, no empire untouched, no species strong enough to stand against the tide. Then, an old scholar from the corner whispered something strange, something forbidden. What about the humans? The room froze. Every alien eye turned toward him in disbelief. Humans, the primitive newcomers, the small blue world species who had only joined the coalition a few decades ago. They were considered reckless, unpredictable, too emotional, too violent. The very idea made the council laugh, but the laughter sounded hollow, desperate. They fight well, someone muttered, but they are unstable. They fight like they have nothing to lose, another said. And maybe that's what we need. The Admiral hesitated, his claws tapping against the table. Send the call, he ordered finally. Request human soldiers for deployment. The message left the Valorian flagship and traveled across the stars. Through the void, through relay stations and silent systems, it reached Earth after 6 standard cycles. No one expected an answer. No one expected humanity to even respond. But when the response came, it was only one sentence long. Request received. Forces inbound. The Admiral waited weeks, staring at the sky. The other coalition commanders mocked him quietly, saying the humans would send diplomats, not warriors, that they would send words, not weapons. But then the sky darkened without warning. Massive triangular shadows appeared in orbit, black ships with no transponders, no identification, no lights. They did not hail. They did not announce themselves. They simply arrived, silent as death. The first ship descended into the coalition's central base on Aurelis Prime. Its hull was scarred and plated with strange human alloys, each layer reinforced by thick armor panels that looked grown, not built. When the landing ramp opened, a hiss of cold vapor spread through the air. And then they stepped out. The humans wore matte black armor with glowing red visors. Their movements were precise, mechanical, and silent. Each one carried a weapon the aliens had never seen before. Long, heavy rifles that hummed with restrained power. They did not salute, they did not speak. They only looked around, scanning everything, calculating every detail. Even the bravest soldiers of the coalition felt a chill crawl down their spines. Admiral Kareth tried to speak. Welcome, human soldiers. We are... But before he could finish, one of the humans turned toward him, visor shining with a faint crimson light. We are not soldiers, the human said in a calm, cold voice. We are Deployment Unit Revenant 1. Then silence again. The Admiral exchanged nervous glances with his aides. Are you command trained? He asked carefully. The human replied, We are war trained. Those words hung in the air like a blade. Behind them, more humans descended, hundreds of them. Then thousands, each one moving in perfect synchronization. Each one with the same emotionless stare, the same quiet hunger for battle. The coalition engineers tried to scan their armor but failed. Their instruments returned static. The scientists whispered theories saying the armor was alive, adaptive, connected to the soldiers' neural systems. And when they looked into those red visors, some swore they saw movement as if something inside was looking back. That night the base trembled with unease. The humans did not eat, did not rest, they simply waited, standing in rows like statues, weapons in hand. The alien officers whispered in private, Are they even alive? Maybe they are machines? But no one dared to ask them directly. When dawn came, the first attack warning blared through the base. The swarm had arrived, billions of living ships blotting out the stars. Admiral Kareth turned to his command screen, voice shaking, Deploy the human forces! But the humans were already moving, without orders, without hesitation. Their dropships launched into the sky like black knives. The swarm met them with a storm of plasma fire. But the humans did not slow. They dove straight into the chaos, and for the first time in weeks, the coalition watched something unbelievable happen. The swarm was pushed back. Reports flooded in. Entire sections of the enemy fleet annihilated. Planetary hives vaporized. Enemy life signs disappearing in minutes. The alien commanders stared at the screens in disbelief. "What kind of soldiers are these?" one whispered, but no one answered. When the humans returned, they were covered in dark liquid, some of it alien blood, some of it unknown. Not a single one had fallen. Their commander approached Admiral Kareth again, visor flickering, voice emotionless. "Sector secured," he said, awaiting next engagement. Then he paused, and for the first time, the Admiral noticed the faintest grin under the human's mask. It was then the Coalition realized something chilling. They hadn't summoned warriors. They had summoned monsters wearing human skin. The next day, the sun rose cold and red over Arelis Prime. The human soldiers stood in perfect formation, silent as statues, their armor still glistening with alien blood. The Coalition officers tried to celebrate the victory, but their voices trembled. They had seen the swarm destroyed, but not by bravery, not by strategy, by something far darker. Admiral Kareth tried to speak with their leader again, but the human commander's visor reflected only emptiness. "Your operation was effective," Kareth began carefully, "but your methods, they are unconventional." The human tilted his head slightly. "War is not convention, Admiral," he replied. "It is adaptation." The way he said adaptation made the room colder. When the humans left the chamber, the Valorian guards exhaled, realizing they had been holding their breath the entire time. Kareth turned to his aide, whispering, "There is no fear like this, even in battle." Later that day, the Coalition scientists began studying the battlefield footage. What they found made them go pale. The human soldiers moved in perfect sync. Like one mind, they walked through fire, through poison gas, through environments that would kill any other species instantly. Some were hit directly by plasma rounds, but the armor healed itself, glowing faintly, and when their weapons ran out, they continued the slaughter with their hands, breaking through metal, bone, and chitin as if none of it mattered. The lead scientist, a Lithorian named Dr. Malix, whispered to himself, "This isn't natural." He replayed the footage frame by frame, zooming into one human's visor during combat. For a split second, he saw something flicker beneath the glass, a second layer of eyes. "Mechanical and red, Admiral," he said over the comms. "I don't think we understand what they are." Meanwhile, in the barracks, alien soldiers tried to interact with the humans. A young Rithian officer approached one of them, smiling nervously. "Impressive battle yesterday," he said. "You saved us all." The human didn't reply, didn't even move. The Rithian swallowed hard and turned away as he walked off. He swore he heard the human whisper something softly, almost like a prayer. "Save you?" the voice said. "We weren't saving you." That night, the humans began maintenance rituals. They opened their armor panels, revealing strange glowing veins running beneath their skin. Some were human flesh. Others looked like living metal fused into muscle. The engineers watching from behind reinforced glass stepped back in horror. One whispered, "They're not repairing armor, they're repairing themselves." Rumors spread across the Coalition ranks that the humans weren't soldiers at all but revenants, dead men rebuilt from old wars. That their armor wasn't worn, it was grown. Some even said the humans had made a pact with death itself to win their wars. When Admiral Kareth tried to ask about their origins, the human commander only gave one answer. "Project Revenant," he said. No one knew what it meant, but the way he said it made everyone wish they hadn't asked. Soon, strange events began happening across the base. Cameras malfunctioned whenever humans passed by. Motion sensors triggered in empty corridors, and one night an alien guard disappeared, leaving only a cracked helmet and black scorch marks on the wall. When the Admiral questioned the humans, their commander replied simply, "Irrelevant anomaly," and walked away. The Coalition morale began to collapse. Soldiers refused to sleep near the humans. Officers avoided eye contact. Even Kareth found himself waking up in cold sweats, hearing mechanical whispers in the night. But the war wasn't over. Another swarm was coming, larger, stronger, faster. The humans prepared without orders, silently boarding their ships again. When the Valorians asked why they moved so quickly, the human commander said, "We detected them before your sensors did." "How?" asked Kareth. The human turned his head slowly, the red light flickering behind his visor. "Because they fear us," he said. "And fear leaves traces." The Admiral didn't understand, but the humans didn't wait for permission. They launched before the Coalition could even approve the operation. Hours later, the fleet picked up signals, entire swarm hives collapsing, enemy fleets exploding without warning. No human transmissions, no requests for reinforcements. Only silence and destruction. When the human ships returned, one of them was heavily damaged. Kareth rushed to the hangar to help, but what he saw froze his blood. The damaged ship's hull had melted into itself, reshaping like liquid metal, and from within the wreckage, human soldiers crawled out, unscathed. They didn't bleed, they didn't scream. They simply stood and reformed their ranks, Kareth whispered. By the stars. What are you? The human commander finally removed his helmet, revealing a scarred face with faint metallic lines under the skin. Something you created, he said softly, and something you'll never control. As he turned to leave, the lights flickered, and for a moment, Kareth saw something impossible. A second face beneath the human's own, flickering like static, grinning back at him. From that day forward, the Coalition no longer called them humans. They called them the Revenants, and deep inside, everyone began to realize a terrible truth. The galaxy hadn't summoned soldiers to save them. They had invited monsters, and they had come willingly. Whispers moved faster than light across the stars, from one outpost to another, from one terrified fleet to the next. Everywhere the same words echoed. The humans have arrived. And with those words came silence, the kind that only follows disaster. Entire enemy armadas vanished in hours, not days. Worlds that had screamed for help suddenly went dark. And when scouts investigated, they found nothing. No wreckage, no bodies, no signals. Only scorched ground and strange burn marks shaped like human footprints. At first, the Coalition tried to celebrate, calling these efficient victories, but deep down, every commander felt something wrong. The humans fought without communication. Without coordination requests, they simply acted, destroying everything in their path, including some friendly outposts that had interfered when asked why. Their commander said coldly, "Contamination eliminated." No apology, no explanation. On the Valorian flagship, Admiral Kareth listened to hundreds of distress transmissions. Each one ended the same way, static and silence. His aide, trembling, whispered, "Sir." These were friendly sectors. Kareth closed his eyes, voice heavy. "I know. The scientists tried to track human movement but failed. Their ships did not emit light, heat, or even a normal warp signature. It was as if space itself bent to hide them. One researcher suggested they used living drives, organic engines that fed on the quantum field. But that theory was dismissed as impossible. Nothing that alive could be so emotionless, so perfectly cold across the galaxy. Alien children began to tell stories before bed. Stories of the Black Legion, the silent humans, the ghost soldiers of Earth. They said if you spoke of them too loudly, your communications would fail, that if you looked too long into the dark between stars, you'd see their red eyes staring back. Meanwhile, the humans continued their silent campaign. Their methods grew stranger, their weapons more nightmarish. One battlefield report described black mist spreading before them, a vapor that corroded metal, dissolved armor, and erased life at the cellular level. No one knew what it was, but the humans called it the purge fog. When asked how it worked, they replied, "It ensures peace." The Coalition Council demanded accountability. "Your soldiers are out of control," shouted the Chancellor of the Mirren Republic. But Admiral Kareth only looked down. "They were never under control," he whispered. When the humans finally appeared before the council, the chamber fell silent. Their commander, Reyes, stood alone, visor dimmed, voice steady. "You asked for survival," he said. "We gave you certainty." "What do you mean?" a senator demanded. Reyes turned his head, the faint mechanical tone returning to his voice. "There is no more threat." "Where are the swarm fleets?" "Gone," Reyes said simply. And everything they touched. The room erupted in chaos, council members shouting, some crying. "You destroyed entire systems." Reyes didn't blink. "We removed risk." "Risk?" Another screamed. "Those were inhabited worlds." Reyes paused for a moment, then replied, "Correction, formerly inhabited." After that day, half the Coalition broke apart. The remaining members went into hiding, closing their borders. No one wanted to share space with the allies they once begged for. Entire species vanished into deep space, afraid the humans would secure them next. But fear has a strange way of breeding curiosity. One alien spy ship followed a human convoy through hyperspace. What it recorded was beyond comprehension. The human ships did not travel through normal space, they tore through it, ripping open shimmering wounds in the void, leaving behind echoes that screamed like dying stars. The spy's transmission cut off halfway, but the last frame showed something terrifying. Rows of human soldiers standing in formation inside the void, unmoving, as if they existed outside time itself, waiting for orders. Soon after, the Coalition's communication networks began to fail one by one, not due to attacks, but due to encryption overrides labeled Revenant Protocol. Every species realized at once. The humans were inside their systems, their fleets, their networks. They hadn't just come to fight the swarm. They had come to rewrite the galaxy one night. Kareth stood alone on the observation deck, staring at Earth's transmission beacon. He whispered to himself, "What have we done?" Behind him, a quiet voice answered, "You asked for soldiers." Kareth turned sharply. Commander Reyes stood there, his armor darker than before, the red glow gone, replaced by something softer but deeper. "Do you regret it?" Reyes asked. Kareth couldn't speak. Reyes stepped closer, his words almost human now. "Don't fear us, Admiral," he said. "Fear what made us." As the commander walked away, the stars outside flickered for a moment, and Kareth realized with a sudden chill that those weren't stars at all. They were human ships, hundreds, maybe thousands, watching, waiting, unmoving, silent guardians or silent executioners. No one knew anymore. The war was over, but peace had never felt so terrifying. The storm over Aurelis Prime never stopped. Black clouds circled the human base day and night, thunder rolling like the growl of something caged. The galaxy had gone quiet, too quiet. Every species was rebuilding, hiding, or pretending life was normal again, but deep down, they all knew. The humans were still out there, watching, waiting, learning. Inside the central command bunker, Admiral Kareth stood before a secure console. He had spent weeks collecting fragments of intercepted transmissions, encrypted human files labeled Revenant Origin, each one more disturbing than the last. Now, finally, he had pieced enough together to understand the truth, and it was worse than anything he had feared. Centuries ago, before humanity joined the stars, Earth had faced its own extinction, a civil war that turned half the planet to ash. Cities erased, oceans poisoned, billions dead in desperation. The Terran Directorate began an experiment, Project Revenant. Its purpose, create soldiers who would never die, never disobey, never hesitate. They combined human DNA with adaptive nanite colonies and neural algorithms built from battlefield AIs. But something unexpected happened. The prototypes learned faster than predicted. They began to think, to remember, and most horrifying of all, they began to enjoy the war. When the Directorate realized what they had unleashed, it was too late. The Revenants had already turned on their creators. The project was buried under layers of secrecy, sealed beneath Antarctic ice until centuries later, when the Coalition's desperate call reached Earth, and someone on the Terran Council reopened the vault. The Revenants were awakened again, remade, reprogrammed, and unleashed upon the galaxy. Kareth's claws trembled as he read the final line of the recovered file. They are not human soldiers. They are the death of war itself. A sudden sound broke his focus, the metallic hiss of a door sliding open. Commander Reyes entered the room, armor darkened by rain, visor dim. "You've been looking where you shouldn't," Reyes said softly. Kareth turned slowly, fear rising in his throat. You lied to us." Reyes shook his head. "No, Admiral. We told you what you needed to hear." "What are you?" Kareth whispered. Reyes stepped closer. Removing his helmet for the first time since the war, his face was human. But wrong, too still, too symmetrical, with faint red light pulsing beneath his skin. "We are what humanity became when survival mattered more than soul," he said quietly. "We remember pain, fear, hunger, but we do not feel them anymore." Kareth backed away. "Your machines." Reyes's eyes glowed faintly. "No, Admiral. Machines are predictable. We are not. We are humanity's instinct made flesh, war given purpose." Outside, thunder cracked again. But this time it wasn't from the storm, it came from orbit, where an entire Revenant fleet was descending. "They're moving again," Kareth said. "Why?" "The war is over." Reyes turned toward the window, watching the dark sky tremble with light. "There is always another war," he said, "and we were made to end them. The base alarms blared, multiple fleets entering the system. Coalition patrols tried to contact the humans but received only static. Moments later, the Revenant ships opened fire, not on enemies, but on the planet itself. Orbital bombardment rained down in controlled patterns, vaporizing military zones, data vaults, communications hubs. Everywhere the humans had fought. They now cleansed. "Why are you doing this?" Kareth screamed. Reyes looked at him, expression calm. "To remove evidence. War must leave no seeds behind." The Admiral collapsed against the console, disbelief in his eyes. "You're destroying everything." Reyes crouched beside him, voice almost gentle. "Everything is temporary, Admiral." Even fear, as the bombardment continued. Human soldiers marched silently through the burning corridors. Their visors reflected fire and lightning. Some carried crates filled with glowing cores, the collected memories of every battle they had fought. Others dragged machines that looked alive, pulsing with nanite veins, whispering in languages no one could understand. Suddenly, Kareth noticed one of the humans hesitate. Its armor flickered, and for a brief moment, the face beneath was not emotionless, it looked sad. Kareth reached out. "Wait. Do you remember who you were?" The soldier froze, the red glow in its visor dimming, then it spoke in a trembling voice, human but broken. "I remember. The sky of Earth, blue." Before Kareth could say another word, the soldier convulsed, armor sealing itself again, voice returning to monotone. "Error corrected," it said, and walked away. Reyes turned back toward the Admiral. "You see, fragments remain," he said quietly. "Echoes of what we were, but the machine always wins." As the last bombardment wave hit, Kareth fell to his knees. The base trembled, walls collapsing, fire swallowing everything. Reyes stood at the center of the destruction. Voice transmitted across every channel in the system. "To the Coalition," he said. "We thank you for your request." His tone was calm, almost polite. "But next time you summon monsters, ensure you can control them." Then the human fleet vanished into the storm, leaving only ruins behind. When the dust settled, no bodies remained, no human, no alien, nothing, only empty armor shells. Still standing upright, their visors flickered once, whispering a final message into the static. "We are humanity. We end wars." Centuries would pass before the galaxy dared to speak the name Revenant aloud again. For generations, the skies above Aurelius Prime remained a forbidden zone, shrouded by radiation storms and haunted signals. The Coalition collapsed, its records wiped, its leaders gone. Only fragments of intercepted transmissions remained. Whispers of a single fleet that had erased both enemy and ally with equal precision. The few survivors who had witnessed the end told stories that no one wanted to believe. Of black ships that moved without engines. Of soldiers who never spoke but whose shadows screamed. Of eyes that glowed through the dust long after the flesh had turned to ash. And of one voice that spoke through every channel before the silence came. Peace achieved. War concluded. Protocol complete. In time, new civilizations rose from the ruins. Species that had never known the swarm, never heard of Earth. To them, humanity was a myth, something old and impossible, a ghost from before history began. But the galaxy still bore scars that refused to fade. Entire sectors remained empty, their stars dimmed as if afraid to shine. Black monoliths drifted in the void, pulsing faintly with encoded symbols. Scholars called them relics. Engineers called them warnings. Only a few dared to decode them. One day, a young explorer named Saren from the Elith Confederacy found herself drawn to one such relic. Her ship hovered before it, a massive obsidian shard etched with strange angular letters. Her AI translated the message piece by piece. "Do not seek the children of Earth. They are not lost. They are waiting." Saren's crew laughed nervously, but she felt something staring back through the void. A faint static whispered across the ship's intercom, almost a human breath. Then the stars blinked for a single instant. Every comm network across the sector froze. A transmission older than any empire reawakened. It carried a signal, ancient Terran code, still alive. Still pulsing, her ship's systems translated it automatically. Revenant command active. Observation cycle complete. Phase 2 authorization confirmed. Saren's heart stopped. "What is Phase 2? She whispered. The AI hesitated, then answered in a voice that didn't belong to it. "Retrieval." The stars around them began to shift. Points of light that had been motionless for millennia started to move. At first she thought they were meteors, but then the pattern became clear. thousands of them, rising from the darkness beyond the galactic rim. Their hulls black, their forms angular and precise, each one bearing a single red mark across the bow, a symbol no living being had seen in eons, an old Earth insignia. Twisted and sharpened across the galaxy, observatories picked up the same readings. A massive formation emerging from deep void space. No energy signatures, no drive trails, just motion. Perfect and silent. Governments panicked, fleets scrambled. Messages flooded every channel. And then, through every frequency, through every translation filter, a voice returned. The same voice that had once ended a war, cold, calm, unhurried. The galaxy is unstable again. Humanity will restore balance. On every world, the lights flickered. Defense grids shut down, communications jammed. And then came the image. A single human face, pale and scarred. Mechanical veins glowing faintly beneath the skin. The face of Captain Reyes unchanged by time. His eyes burned brighter than before. "We warned you," he said quietly. "Peace cannot exist while fear still breathes." He raised his hand and the screen went black. Moments later, stars vanished, not exploded, vanished. Entire systems folded into darkness as if erased from the simulation of existence. The new civilization screamed into the void for mercy. But the revenants were not vengeance. They were correction, and in their silence, there was no hate, only purpose. Siren's ship drifted among the ruins, powerless. She watched as the black fleet passed overhead like a storm of shadows. Through the hull window, one of the revenants turned its gaze toward her. For a heartbeat, she saw something flicker behind that visor. A spark, faint but human. A whisper reached her mind, almost gentle. "We remember the blue sky." And then they were gone. After that day, the galaxy changed forever. Borders dissolved, wars ceased, not because of diplomacy, but because no one dared to fight again. Every planet built monuments to silence. Every story ended with the same warning: never summon humans. In the ancient ruins of Earth, beneath the ice of Antarctica, buried machines stirred once more. Their voices merged into a single chorus. Revenant cycle complete. Peace maintained. Await next call. And somewhere in the endless dark, humanity, what remained of it, waited. Not asleep, not forgotten, just listening. For the next galaxy foolish enough to ask for soldiers,